Hey, Battle Bill here with another video, and today we're going to get into some Ultra League Go Battle League battles. Our first Ultra League battles of the season. So this is the team that I showcased or showed you how I build my teams in the last video. This is the team that I essentially came up with, and we're going to go through these battles. We're going to talk more about the strengths and weaknesses, what I kind of ran into with this team. We're also going to talk about how I'm struggling with Ultra League. So now, this isn't the worst set that I had with this team. This was just my first battles of the season, which is why it's recorded, and this is the first video you're seeing. I promise you, if I continue to struggle, which I most likely will, so Ultra League's been a struggle these first 2 days of it that I've done battles, I will show you those struggles, and we will all learn from them, and I will definitely try to overcome them, and I will try my best to show you how I overcome them. So I apologize if maybe there's not as much value because of the fact that I'm struggling with it, but again, there's always mistakes to learn from, and I'm hoping that as I watch these clips back with you guys, I will figure them out too, so I can explain them a little bit more, and we can jump into how we should team build going further. Because right now, because of the struggles, I've kind of been using more metamons, and it feels nasty just kind of like saying it off my tongue, but I kind of put together a pretty meta team that's been working, and I'm going to use it for a little bit, and I'm going to try to figure out something off meta. But you know, when you get really high in the rankings, and I was in the 2600s at the end of Great League, then you drop down to 2500s, because you're not even going to see that in this video, but I'm like the 2500s now. You don't want to keep on going down. It's not the best feeling in the world, so I will apologize. It sounds nasty me even saying it. I will show you the meta team in the next video as long as it stays consistent. It's pretty consistent today, so I don't see why not. But and then after I work with that team, I'm going to try and figure out a spice team to use and mix in there so that, again, I can give you guys more options. So now I let the battle play early. I'm trying out new things. Again, as a Pokemon Go PvP YouTuber, sometimes you guys just want to see literally the gameplay as I'm talking. So now we're going to jump to the battle, and I'm going to give my commentary. I'm going for a Moonblast here on my opponent's Giratina. Honestly, because I was doing all the talking, I don't remember the lead. I don't really remember the match, but landing that Moonblast is pretty important, hoping for the debuff. That 30% debuff, I know it's RNG, but it definitely happens a lot, and it's definitely a pretty good feeling. I'm really liking Cresselia. It's super meta, though. So is Registeel, and I don't have a Registeel, so I gotta find my meta pick and stick with that. And the Giratina takes it down, and I'm going to bring in my own Shiftry, and they go for the immediate swap into a Mudboy. And I'm like, you know what? Let me keep in Shiftry here. I don't exactly know why they brought in a Mudboy to deal with my Shiftry. I guess they were hoping that, yeah, because they just let the Leaf Blade go through and take it out. I guess they were hoping I would swap because they swapped, but just based on the fact that I saw it was Swampert, I'm like, can't take Shiftry out of that. They're going to go for their charge move, ends up being a Dragon Claw, and that's not going to take me out. I have a 2-shield to 1-shield advantage. I have Poliwrath in the back that could deal super effective damage with Ice Punch, and then these charge moves are going to be Dragon Claws. Shiftry's glassy, but these Dragon Claws really don't do a lot considering how glassy it is. And one thing that I did like about this team, if we could avoid the obvious weakness that we mentioned in the last video, which is a Charmer in the back, is the combination of Shiftry and Poliwrath can deal a lot of damage to the meta. I do also get pretty walled by Registeel. That's also why I mentioned it, and that's been probably my toughest opponent so far. It was my toughest opponent in Season 1. It was the toughest Pokemon I faced in preseason. Registeel's really just annoying, and then when I bring 2 counters for Registeel, I stop seeing Registeels, and I see more Giratinas, and then then they're not matchups for the Giratina. Wait, this is the second match of the set? How long was I talking? How many matches? Wait, that was the first match? Hopefully that was the first match, because this Guan match is crazy. So this is the second match of the set. Guan's a very well-known trainer out of, I think, Toronto. King has shouted him out a few times and shown his clips. He's very good. And we end up in a situation where, honestly, Cresselia doesn't have the best matchup against his Scavalier. Scavalier is a great pick this season around with Ultra League. It was a good pick in the past, but with the emergence of Cresselia, it's a Bug and Steel type that resists Cresselia's, like, both of its charge moves, and it also sells counter to deal damage to something like Registeel. I've kind of tried out Escavalier, but I didn't have too much success with it. That Mega Horn that I just shielded does a lot of damage, so what I was really hoping for by shielding that first Mega Horn was to go for at least 2 Moonblasts combined, and you saw how much the first one does. It doesn't do a lot of damage. I'm really just hoping for the debuff so I can try to get to a 3rd one and possibly a 4th one depending on shielding and whatnot. He hasn't shielded anything. I didn't get the debuff there, so I'm like, alright, this isn't looking too great. I know Shiftry is going to be weak to it, so my best option for this Escavalier is going to be my Poliwrath. I don't want to be down 2 shields and no shield, so I tanked that Mega Horn. Did I get the debuff on the first one? I wasn't paying attention again. I might have gotten the debuff, because I swear that Mega Horn does a little bit more damage. But either way, I'm going for another Moonblast here, and my issue with Escavalier is just the fact that it's glassy, and if you've noticed these Ultra League matches, they run out the timer. Tons of bulky Pokemon between Cresselias, Registeels, Snorlaxes, Giratina Alters, so many bulky Pokemon that I've noticed my matches timing out a lot more often than you'll see in Great League, which makes sense because it's happened the same in the past in the other leagues. So let's talk about this Granbull. He shields it up, and I'm like, okay, I have a big problem here. Both of my Pokemon are weak to Charm in the back. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bring in Poliwrath here, so we're going to wait for me to... Why did I kill out the Switch Timer? I think I was just really stressed out. Oh, I didn't bring in Poliwrath. I brought in Shiftry. My apologies. I brought in Shiftry. I'm going to shield this. I'm keeping Shiftry alive. My hope was to land the Leaf Blade, get the shield, then bring in Poliwrath and try to spam some Ice Punches and pray to Jesus that his last Pokemon was Swampert and my Shiftry would be able to deal with it. So I throw this Leaf Blade, he does shield it, so I'm like, alright, Poliwrath is coming in. He doesn't swap out because he's going to realize that it's a Poliwrath, and Granbull's going to do a ton of damage to Poliwrath. Luckily, Poliwrath's a little bit, well, not a little bit, it's tankier than Shiftry, so it can tank these charms to an extent, so they still hurt a lot. And I throw that Ice Punch, it does a little bit of damage, it's going to slowly get him in the red. My Poliwrath's not going to take it out, so... Poliwrath's not going to take it out here. I'm going to throw another Ice Punch, and I'm going to get Charmed down. But I promise this match ends up a little bit closer, or a lot closer than you'd expect. You'd think this Granbull just completely slaughters me, and in most cases, the Charmer on the back is definitely going to slaughter this team. He goes for the Crunch here, which was a mistake on his part, because he could have charmed me down, and then thrown the close combat my Shiftry and ended the match. And then I'm able to actually Snarl. No, I didn't Snarl. He swapped. And I noticed in the top right corner it was a water and ground type, so I'm like, oh my god, that's Swampert. Here's my one chance. Maybe I can one-hit KO it and then Snarl his Granbull. Swampert survives a Leaf Blade. I had no idea that a Swampert in Ultra League would survive a Leaf Blade. So it survived with that much, and he was able to mud-shot me down because Shiftry literally had no health left. So, obviously, it makes sense to me why Swampert survived, because in Great League, a Swampert would not survive a Leaf Blade, even at full health, but because when you power up the Swampert to 2500 for Ultra League, it ends up getting an increased HP stat, it has an increased defense stat, and then Shiftry maxes out below 2500, so that becomes the issue for why that Leaf Blade didn't take out that Swampert, but I honestly really thought it would still take it out, so I had no idea. But it was a close match considering there was a Charmer in the back, I'm just saying that. Either way, we got a Cresselia on Lucario matchup in this third match, and I think at this point I'm, 1-1? I won the first match, lost that second one to a Charmer in the back. He shields it, and I'm like, ooh, I got the debuff, nice. So I got the shield, got the debuff. Excuse me, I don't know what it is every time I'm on camera. But anyhow, I'm worried this is going to be a Shadow Ball, ends up being a Power-Up Punch. I wasn't sure because I know in Ultra League some Lucarios run Close Combat in Shadow Ball, so if he was running that moveset then he wouldn't have a choice but to go for Shadow Ball. So I was just like, let me not take my chances. Even though Shadow Ball wouldn't take me out, Lucario doesn't get stab on it. A Powered-Up Shadow Ball though does a good chunk of damage. For Cresselia, considering how tanky it is, that's a lot, but it's also powered up, so I'm not feeling too stressed in this situation. We both use a shield each, and I'm feeling like, especially after seeing how much that neutral Moonblast does, and getting another debuff, this debuff seems like it's more than 30%. Yes, I understand RNG. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen 3 out of every 10 times. I know math. But still, it feels like it's happening 50% of the time. So either way, I shield that because I know I can Psycho Cut it down because Lucario is just so glassy. So now I have a bunch of energy, I have Switch Advantage, I'm down a shield, but one thing I noticed with this team, which was super important, and is probably important with most teams honestly, is just keeping Switch Advantage, even being down a shield. Plus, my Moonblast got that shield, which was great. Now, my issue becomes, I'm going to go for another Moonblast, and I'm going to really hope the Swampert does not mud-shot me down. Because these Moonblasts will not take out the Swampert, and I have just enough health for him to mud-shot me down and have, like, 2 Hydro Cannons left. Luckily, we see him Pizza there, and he's going to have, now he doesn't have a choice but to go for the Hydro Cannon. And even if he undercharges it, it's going to take out my Cresselia here. Oh no, it actually doesn't. He undercharged it though. He doesn't, and I lied. I had that much health, so he was able to farm me up a little bit more. But I'm like, okay, I can bring in Shiftry. The good thing about Ultra League, which is different from Great League, is Swamperts need to run Hydro Cannon and Earthquake because of Registeels, whereas in Great League, Swampert can get away with Hydro Cannon and Sludge Wave because of the Zoom Rolls, and the Registeels are glassier, so Hydro Cannons do enough to a Registeel there. So I didn't have to worry about that. Then he brings in a Sceptile, and I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta bring in a Water-type Poliwrath. Luckily, Poliwrath does have access to Ice Punch, so it'll do decent damage to the Sceptile. I'm hoping that he's running Leaf Blade because I'll be able to tank it a little bit better. If he's running Frenzy Plant, those are definitely going to hurt more. I'm hoping to get to another Ice Punch here. So that Sceptile was running Bullet Seed, gets to its charge moves pretty quick. I'm really hoping this is a Leaf Blade and not a Frenzy Plant. We're going to wait for the charge move to come through. Ends up being a Frenzy Plant. Takes out my Poliwrath even though we CMP tied. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a bit of a tough position. I got to play my energy properly. So he's got 2 charge moves. Those Bullet Seeds charge them up real quick. I know this is a Frenzy Plant. It does a lot of damage considering the fact that I resist it. And I need to charge up enough so that I can get this Foul Play off, take out the Sceptile, and then have enough for a Leaf Blade when the Swampert comes back in. Because honestly, if I didn't overcharge, then the Swampert might have beat me to the next charge move, and obviously a Hydro Cannon is going to take me out. Swampert comes in, I go for this Leaf Blade here, and that is going to be GG on the Swampert, and I end up being 2-1 in the set. So, like I said, switch advantage was pretty important there, because honestly, what would have happened there? I would have brought in my Shiftry, would have brought in the Sceptile. Honestly, I probably still could have won that. Maybe Switch Advantage wasn't as important there because Shiftry could have still beaten the Sceptile by throwing foul plays. We're both getting to our charge moves like at the same pace because Bullet Seed and Snarl are literally like the same quick move, just different types. And then Poliwrath does have a positive matchup against Swampert. But then again, sometimes if your Pokemon, like if my Shiftry beats a Sceptile, it has a little bit of health, then the Swampert could technically come and farm me down. But then again, if the I'm really just, this is what goes on in my mind. Every time I do a match, this is my thought process over and over and over. I just don't stop. It's like, what if this, what if that, what if that, what if this? But again, if my Shiftry was in farm range, then I could have just brought in my Poliwrath right away and not let myself get farmed down. So that's something you need to consider, especially when it's your opponent's last Pokemon. Never let yourself get farmed down. There's no switch advantage anymore because their Pokemon can't go anywhere. So now we have this next matchup. I got Cresselia on Melmetal, and this is a boring matchup. Oh my god. So I don't want to give up switch advantage. I don't remember if this was in the beginning though when I was still thinking about it, because Cresselia can win this in like the no shield and the one shields, or it probably can win in all shielding situations if the Moonblast gets the debuff. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm going to go for one Moonblast at least to try and get the debuff, because then I can commit to try and winning this. Moonblast lands, I get the debuff, so I'm pretty confident that I just play out the rest of this matchup. I know this was like my first set, so again, I was very unsure. I knew all my moves were being resisted, and I knew these Rock Slides, as much as they're really not doing anything, they were still technically neutral. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to play this one out. I'm going to go for another Moonblast, and I'm just hoping for all the debuffs in the world. Like I said, it's a 3 out of 10 chance, but like, you've seen like, what, 4 or 5 Moonblasts already? 4 or 5 debuffs already, and I definitely did not throw 10 Moonblasts. But either way, he's going for another charge move, and the other thing about this matchup is the Melmetal probably doesn't want to shield just because the Moonblasts are resisted and they're really not doing a lot of damage. So I can understand why the Melmetal's not shielding, and then you can understand why I'm not shielding because the Rock Slides aren't doing much, and I debuffed them, what, twice there I think? I'm ready to lose my train of thought. But anyhow, I'm going for another Moonblast here, and I'm just seeing how close this matchup ends up being. I get him in the red, I get another debuff there, and then I swap out. Oh, this is what cost me the match. So this was in the beginning when I didn't know that Cresselia could still technically win it. It was getting super close. So I was like, you know what? I'll bring in Poliwrath to try and mudshot it down. We swapped at the same time. He brings in Armor Mewtwo. And I'm just like, bro, I shouldn't have swapped out. Oh, because, well, there's a few reasons why I shouldn't have swapped out. My Cresselia could have won that matchup. And if he would have swapped in Mewtwo, obviously I want to bring in Shiftry. And of course, I want to avoid getting Dynamic Punched, but what I'm also noticing this time around is that Mewtwo's aren't consistently running Dynamic Punches. I ran into one with Earthquake, I know some are running Rock Slide, and I think Earthquake is to be able to deal damage to Registeel. Yes, Dynamic Punch deals good damage to Registeel, but then Earthquake does good damage to Cresselia, and Cresselia beats Armor Mewtwo also, so I think that's why a lot of them have been running Side Strike and Earthquake, because you gotta run Side Strike. Side Strike's like, Side Strike is the best psychic attack in the game, so you can't have a Mewtwo not running Side Strike. I shield that because I'm worried it's going to be a Dynamic Punch, and even though Mewtwo doesn't get stabbed and it's a heavily defensive Pokemon, it's not going to do a lot of damage, I didn't want to take any chances. My opponent swaps really well, but I was going for a Leaf Blade anyway, and he ends up shielding it, so I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. I swap in Cresselia, and that seemed like the CMP lag, like we should have CMP tied there, but the game didn't process it completely, so it allowed me a window to get out, so he throws a superpower at my Cresselia, which really messes him up. And I can't get farmed down, but he's going to beat me to another charge move, and I'm pretty confident. Yeah, I'm going to let my Cresselia go down here because now that he's superpowered himself, I can snarl down the Metal, but I'm at a heavy disadvantage here. I have one Pokemon, one shield. He still technically has his Metal. I'm not going to be able to snarl him down in time. He's going to get to the superpower here. I don't have a choice but to shield, even though it's debuffed by, what, 2 stages? Is that what superpower does? Because Shift Tree's so glassy and superpower is super effective. And then I still have to worry about the Mewtwo, which is not completely dead. And he still has a shield. So this is just not a positive situation because of that main swap right there. And then his other Pokemon is Giratina, and I definitely could have won this match because lining up Shift Tree with Mewtwo and then Poliwrath with Giratina would have been way better, even though Poliwrath is still at a disadvantage against Giratina because at least Poliwrath can still get off Ice Punches, and hopefully by landing Shift Tree on the Mewtwo, I would have got myself enough of an advantage there where the slight disadvantage between Poliwrath and Giratina wouldn't have changed the outcome, essentially. But either way, I don't have a choice. It's going to throw Charge Moves. It's going to be Dragon Claws. Shadow Sneaks will be resisted. If you're running Ancient Power on your Giratina's God Bless Your Soul, the attack does barely any damage these days, and you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting the buff. So my personal opinion, I would highly recommend if you still have Ancient Power on your Giratina's, take it off. But either way, he's got a shield, and I have like a tiny bit of energy, but I'm literally like, actually, Confusion's resisted, so I guess I wasn't in Confusion range because he got one through. I was going for the Leaf Blade. I was just really salty at this point. I really need to not be getting salty and just let myself lose in these matches, but the fact that we swapped like that, and I could have won this match if that didn't happen, I was just like, ah. But either way, what is that? 2-2 on the set, so no complaints with a team that has a heavy weakness of Charm in the back. Getting into this 5th match against Kundag. We got a Cresselia on Poliwrath lead, and right off the bat, this is great. So a lot of people are leading with their Swamperts and their Poliwraths because a lot of other people are leading with Registeels. Because even I've considered leading with Poliwrath and Swampert because of all the Registeels, but then a lot of other people are running Cresselias, and if you lead with Poliwrath or Swampert, you're going to get walled by a Cresselia, so it really becomes just like some serious gambling odds. Either way, because of all that gambling, I won lead. He swaps in Alolan Muck, and if you can hear all that pitter-patter, it's because it's raining outside, and I apologize. I didn't realize the rain would be this loud, so if you can hear it on the camera, please bear with me, because it's raining harder and harder now. But we're almost done with this video, so that's a positive. I can't really do anything about it. It's just literally the sound of the rain on the garage I'm in, because I like filming in the garage better. I don't know why I'm having such an issue saying where I'm filming. It doesn't really matter. Either way, I got a good situation here. I'm pretty sure I shielded the Sludge Wave. Maybe. I'm letting this go through, so let's see what this ends up being. And this ends up being a Dark Pulse. So I must have shielded the Sludge Wave. So now, because my opponent did that, my opponent should have just built up for another Sludge Wave, just to force me to throw my charge move. That was a mistake on their part. Because they threw a Dark Pulse, I knew they couldn't get to a Sludge Wave. So I'm like, you know what, let me commit to the farm down. Whatever comes in is going to either take this energy, but he led with a Poliwrath, so if that Poliwrath comes back in, he's just going to take these dynamic punches to the face. He has a shield advantage, but I still have switch advantage, and I don't have to shield anything from his Poliwrath, just based on the pure fact that I have a Cresselia to deal with the Poliwrath. So a dynamic punch lands, so that's about a third of Poliwrath's health there, and now I'm going to go for another dynamic punch here. This will most likely get a shield. Actually, it might not, because he knows my Cresselia is in the back, so it did not get a shield. So he's literally just sending his Poliwrath in here to be sacrificed. And that rain is getting louder and louder. Oh, I hope this doesn't get picked up too much on by the microphone. But I do apologize because of that. So I'm letting this dynamic punch go through. I really don't mind it. I go for an ice punch here because this will take out the Poliwrath's remaining health. And sorry guys. But either way, he's gonna bring in a Giratina here. And I go with my Cresselia because I have a shield. Even though I am down a shield, but these Moonblasts are going to deal super effective damage, and the Giratina is going to have to still worry about that. And this Giratina honestly can only do so much to Cresselia, because its only Ghost move that it has access to is Shadow Sneak, which even though it's super effective, doesn't do a lot. It's Giratina Origin that I've been seeing popping up with a little bit more popularity now, because of the fact that it has access to Ominous Wind and Shadow Ball, which will hurt Cresselia a lot more than Giratina alters Shadow Sneaks. So he's charged up another charge move here. I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to take the Shadow Sneak, and I'm going to throw the Moonblast, and then on top of it, even if he's able to take out my Cresselia, I have a Shift Tree in the back, and that Shift Tree will finish off this Giratina. So this is going to be the match. I'm going to go 3-2 with the team that I showed you that I built on PvPoke. And what I tried to do after this set was, honestly, I changed my team. I had another winning set after this, and then I decided to change my team, which honestly doesn't make any sense, but the glaring weakness to Charm was like, let me see if I can balance this team. So I tried to balance it by using Scizor, because Scizor could still deal with the Tinas a bit, not as well as Shiftry can, but it can still deal with it a bit, and then it can handle the Charmers really well. And both Scizor and Shiftry are both weak to Registeel, so like I still had a huge weakness to Registeel either way. I go and balance my team, and I ended up losing more matches. So I'm like, that logic doesn't make any sense. So I went back to this team, had a little bit of success, then started running into a bunch of Registeels. So I have since abandoned that team. Now, because of that, I'm using a more meta team that I'm not going to expose for this video yet. I apologize. I'm not going to expose for this video yet, but you will see it in tomorrow's video. And we'll go through the Metamons, their situations, why. Hopefully I'm still doing better with that team. And then as long as I can consistently have success with that team, I will then start to explore other off-meta options, so I can give you guys, again, a variety of content, and also, you know how I feel about the meta, so I would prefer not to have to rely on this team, but again, I also don't want my rating to completely tank, so please bear with me as I use that team and then try to explore off-meta options that are going to have success in Ultra League Go Battle League battles. Also, I'm really excited about the Galarian Pokemon that were just released. I would love to get a Hundo Berserker and try that in Ultra League. I definitely want to get myself an Obstagoon to use in Ultra League, so maybe some Obstagoon play. I've already been seeing it a little bit on Twitter from some other people. Has a really interesting moveset, gets counter as a quick move, gets cross chop, so it can deal some quick spammy damage to Registeel, and then also gets Night Slash to kind of deal with the ghost types like the Giratinas and the psychic types like Cresselia. But anyhow, now I'm getting way off topic. Either way, let me know what you think of my team. Let me know what teams you've been trying for Ultra League Go Battle League battles, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.